Well, there's one right there. Again, there may be others. Here, this would be a bifurcation, assuming that this is not a ridge ending on top over here. I'm assuming this thing is splitting into two. Here's another bifurcation where it splits into two. Here's another one. I guess you can call these bifurcations also. See that? That's a little bit wide for a bifurcation. That's actually a delta, which makes sense. A whorl has at least one delta. Here's another bifurcation. I think this is a ridge ending right over here. And another bifurcation. So this is what fingerprint analysts do. They find the enclosures, they find the ridge ending, they mark where it is, they mark where all the bifurcations are, then they get their other fingerprint that they think has the same source, and they say, oh, is there a bifurcation here? Sure enough. Is there a ridge? Is there an enclosure here? Sure enough, there is. Is there a ridge ending here? If they match, let's say 4 or 5 or however many they think is enough, then they can identify the source of this fingerprint. So let's see if we got this right. Here they are. The enclosure over here. Here's the ridge ending. Here are a couple of bifurcations. And remember that the analysts, they not only say, okay, this is what they do, by the way. They circle these things, and they point to it, and so people can say, oh, yeah, I look here. So whenever everyone looks at the report, they say, oh, here, yes, I see the bifurcation. I see the island. I see the enclosure. I see the bifurcation. I see the ridge ending. They also write down their report, like a line between here and there, a distance between this minutia and this minutia, and this characteristic. So they do them all. They do that, and by the time you get this many, by the time you get this many characteristics, this many minutia, you can pretty sure if they're the same, then it's the same person. By the way, so remember we were able to the question, how do you classify this? It's a whorl. Here's one delta. The other delta must have been over there. But apparently this was not a complete fingerprint. But it was a whorl, and there would be 2 deltas, even though you can't see one of them. What is done is that when they take fingerprints from a suspect or from someone they just want to know what their fingerprints are, they register all 10 fingerprints. They are classified as whorls, loops, or arches, and when they have a suspected fingerprint, the criminal left a fingerprint at a crime scene, the first thing they know, they can see is whether it's a whorl, loop, or an arch. That narrows it down. But after that, they get the fingerprint analyst. They look for the bifurcations, the ridge ends, and enclosures on the criminal's fingerprint that was left behind. And they have to look through all the files, all the fingerprint files, and try to match them. Now, this can't be done without a computer because, as we mentioned, there are 75 million of them. Now, okay, if you only have 3 suspects and 1 fingerprint, then we can just get the 3 suspects and analyze the 3. But what if you have no idea who your suspects are? You just know that there's a fingerprint left behind by the criminal. So then you go to this database, the IAFIS or AFIS database, the International Automated Fingerprint Identification System. The A stands for automated. Once you have the fingerprint that was there from the criminal at the crime scene, you or the fingerprint analyst, they'll say, okay, I found bifurcation here, I found an enclosure here, I found I found a ridge ending here and here and here. They send their information to the IAFIS. They send it to the automatic fingerprint identification system. And the computer goes through all 75 million, or sometimes it could be just for the state. If it's known that it's only from the state, that the criminal is only from the state, then you can only get it from the state's fingerprints. But if it's a national crime, you can send it to the IAFIS, which has all 75 million of them, probably more by now. Or you can even send it to other countries. They also have their automated fingerprint identification systems. So you can find if the source of the fingerprint is on file, you will be able to match it. Now, it's not so simple. They don't immediately come up with a single one. Anyway, what they do is they come up with a whole bunch of them that, let's say 10, that the fingerprint analyst can easily go through and say, okay, this isn't, it's got to be number 5 out of the 10, whatever it might be. Anyway, so what's done is they have automatic scanning devices. These are not inking, even though you can ink a person's fingerprint and take a digital photograph of that. What they do is they have basically a computer screen, it's a sensor screen that they put the finger on, and this immediately converts it to pixels to some digital signals, and the computer can quickly find a lot of these minutiae, the ridge endings and bifurcations, and compute them and save them and put them on the file in the AFIS file. So when a suspect fingerprint, when a crime scene fingerprint, they have their the fingerprint analyst. He notes the ridge endings and bifurcations, and he sends the information to the AFIS. And the AFIS will give back, like the 10 most likely candidates, and the fingerprint analyst will say, okay, of these 10, it's number 5, or you can say it's none of these 10. The computer was, they're just not a match. They're close. The computer will give you a close match, but will not give you a single match. Since it's done by computers, and computers can do a lot of things with pictures, it often enhances the print, like to get rid of some like little scratch in one of the ridges maybe, before it analyzes the print and gives the minutia. Now, it's not perfect, of course. At this point, different states, they have their own kinds of software to handle fingerprints, and they don't always work with other states. But what they're getting their act together, and the FBI system, the IAFIS, they have a certain way of filing, a certain way of saving the information and transmitting the information, or whatever it is. And every system that works, even for the states, will work for the FBI system. Therefore, if you want to do it between states, you have to turn it into the FBI style of handling the fingerprints, or of the filing the fingerprints. So it works, but again, they're getting their act together about having everyone work in one system, so it's easy to go between states. By the way, you might want to do that. For example, the FBI has 75 million of people throughout the country. Sometimes a state has taken fingerprints and has not submitted them to the FBI, and you know that this criminal was either in your state or the neighboring state. So if you can just work with the neighboring state, you don't have to go to the FBI, who might not even have the file. So there are reasons to work between states rather than the FBI, but the system has to be finalized, and so that all systems can actually interact with each other. Okay, so the main problem actually is that either you don't find prints, obviously, or you find incomplete prints. When let's say the criminal touches a kitchen counter, they don't make sure to leave all their fingerprint there, and sometimes things happen. Water splashes on it and ruins part of the print.